You're on.
Yeah, I know we gotta. There we go.
Everybody ready for 6 inches more of snow tomorrow?
No.
Ah,
All right, it is 7 o'clock. We have a quorum, so I'm going to call this meeting of the Shutesbury CPC to order. The meeting is being recorded and all members are participating remotely. Before we get into the agenda, Elaine is not here, so I'm wondering if there's a member of the committee who would. Thanks, Cliff.
Thank you, Cliff.
I've already been strong armed, so I agree. So anyway.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, first order of business is to review and vote on the minutes of January 15th, 2026. Is there a motion?
make a motion to approve the minutes of February 26th.
January. What was it?
January 15th, 2026.
Sorry, January 15th, 2026. I was guessing.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any discussion? I have two minor things. The date is wrong on them. It says January 13th, so we're going to want to correct that to January 15th. And in three places, Beth Wilson's last name is spelled wrong.
That's a continual thing. It's okay. I'm all right with it.
Seeing no further discussion, we'll take a vote. Hanson,
Aye.
Farrell,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Geddes,
Aye.
Pengallo, aye. All right, second item on the agenda. Discuss and vote on allowing submission of a CPA grant application from the Conservation Commission for the Southbrook Conservation Area Expansion Project after the grant application deadline. This has happened to us in the past where an application comes in a little bit later than the posted deadline. There's no requirement under state law that we reject it for that reason. CPCs have a great deal of latitude in how we run our grant process. So we just need to agree to accept it after the posted deadline. Is there a motion?
Sure, I move that we accept it.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. Hanson,
Aye.
Farrell,
Aye.
Wilson.
I abstain, I think.
You don't have to. As a representative of the commission on the committee, you can vote on things from the commission, but it's up to
All
you.
right. Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Geddes,
Aye.
and Gallo, aye. All right, now to the meat of the matter. The next item, questions from the committee for our grant applicants this year. We received 4 grant applications, and I guess we can take them in the order in which we received them, which is the order in which they're posted on the website. Starting with the Regional Affordable Housing Coordinator application from the Franklin Regional Council of Governments. Mariah Kurtz is sick, so she was unable to attend this evening. But she was curious to know if there were questions from any members in the committee that should be forwarded to her.
I did have a question last time about the person or entity that would be the liaison with the with Mariah and back and forth, and so somebody within the town here that would be the direct conduit and communication line with her. Just wondering whether that was resolved, clarified.
Yeah, we did give her that question. I don't see it addressed specifically in the application.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I'm missing something here. I know that she had verbally indicated it would be the person would be reporting to the town administrator. But let me see here. Sorry, I'm looking at the application.
Yeah, I didn't see it addressed in the application.
No, I didn't either.
I think that's a good question, Cliff. Just because well, I'm nominally the housing representative on the Community Preservation Committee. And it's not because I've been affiliated with the Franklin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority, but because of my professional background of doing affordable housing work for many decades. So I agree. I think there should be somebody other than the town administrator, and maybe it's getting information back to the CPC. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to address it, but I think it would be good to have somebody other than the town administrator kind of monitoring what's going on and being able to give some feedback.
Okay, I can communicate that to her and let her know that.
Yeah, just see what, in other communities, there might be a housing committee and we don't have one. So, some cases there's a housing partnership or an affordable housing committee. But in the absence of that, it would be good to have, have some reporting back to, I don't know, maybe it's back to this committee. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
Mhm.
I have a question. This is a procedural question for the other members of the committee. If we have a question like this about something that we think is insufficient in an application, are we requiring the applicant to resubmit the application to us with that information? Or are we satisfied with
I would
just a,
say no, but we could just ask for some additional information.
And why wouldn't we?
That the question was raised, but not make them submit a new application. This is
Just as
just clarifying information.
Mhm. I think it would be good to have it in writing and just record it in some manner. So it doesn't require a whole new application, I don't think, but just a addendum supporting, clarifying document to be added to this. But it would be good to know, I think, before
Yeah.
we actually take a vote on it.
I agree that I think having a whole new application is probably overkill, but I think having it in writing is important because we want to be able to direct people before town meeting to something that will inform them about what it is we're asking them to vote on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if we can put this up with, an addendum or a letter or something clarifying that, that I think might be helpful for voters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Were there any other questions about the FERCog application?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to the next, which is the Spear Building Porch Rehabilitation submitted by the Spear Library Reuse Committee. Are there questions from members of the committee?
Henry and I are both on that committee.
Mm.
So just FYI.
Yeah. I was wondering if a vote was taken on I think it was the 17th or 14th, and if so, the result of that from the Historical Commission.
Oh, we did not meet on the 17th. It had to be postponed for a week, and so we'll be meeting next week. But we discussed this before with Stephen and Rita, I believe, was there. Maybe not. The Historic Commission, I think it's pretty safe to say that they will support this.
So maybe, Henry, if there could be an official vote, that would
Yeah.
just at your
Absolutely.
next meeting.
Yeah.
So I had another question specifically about the porch with the town considering the next life of this building. From what I understand, nothing has been determined at this point moving forward, and this is more of a stabilization, kind of like securing it so it doesn't fall down, or structural necessity and high priority. But is there has there been any discussion about this work and possible uses in the future? And is it something which the work to stabilize it might be done in a different manner if it is known that the building is going to be used for a particular purpose or not? So just is it something simply to stabilize it and get it secure? Has it been talked about in the larger context of possible future uses?
You want me to answer that, Henry?
Yeah, I can certainly address that.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, of course, we're still working as a committee on the future of the building, but this kind of repair would be essential to any use of the building. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just something that needs to be done, and this is a vehicle, a form of funding that would certainly advance um, whatever we get beyond it, which is going to be a challenge, I believe, uh, depending on the option that we go with. The costs could be up there. Let's just say the costs are, yeah, to rehabilitate the building. I won't say any more about that, except um, you know, this is a good way to fund something that will definitely uh, be a precursor to any viable use of the building.
Mhm.
Can I ask two questions? Um, the request is for a price range. It's 55 to 85,000, which I don't know that I would know how to write a warrant article
Yeah.
for a price range. So I'm curious about how much the grant is actually going to be for, when we might know that. And then also the second sort of related to that is the matching contribution portion. It currently says unknown. If there's any indication about any other funding source that's going to be going into the port project.
I think without a detailed specifications, it would and then a bid, it's hard to come up with a definitive amount, and so I assume that's why Stephen put that range in there. I'm trying to recall if in the past we did an up to so we could say up to the maximum amount that was listed there and leave it at that, because we don't have a fixed bid. um
Mm.
if that would be acceptable.
So in that case, the request would be for the maximum amount of 85.
Yeah.
Oh.
And detailing it as an up to figure.
Right. Yes.
What was the second part of your question?
About other matching funding or any other sources of funding, because it's currently blank in the application.
Yeah. Henry, was there anything that the historical commission was going to be able to contribute
We
to
have
this?
not discussed this in the historical commission, but yeah, I mean, we certainly have some funds there that might contribute. Not a huge amount, though, relative to the total cost.
So maybe that's a question that's put back to the committee, follow up as a clarifying
Mhm.
question, such as we're doing with the other applications. Please submit something back in writing to the CPC.
Yeah.
You're saying that the historical commission should do that.
No, I'm saying that if the CPC says back to the building committee, we would like is there a clear answer to the question about the match?
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess, I would say, Henry, if the historical commission does have access to some funds, maybe you discuss at your next meeting too, what, if any,
Mhm.
could be dedicated for, for the Spear building.
Will do.
Rita, do you know how Stephen came up with this price range? Was this based off of something specific that we could or is this an estimate?
I don't have the answer to that, but he does have a background in construction
Mhm.
building, so I assume that he came up with those numbers based on his expertise.
And also there was an inspection of the at the scene. I don't know if he actually did he actually consult beyond that. I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, part of it is once you pull that porch off, you know, there are unknowns, and until you sort of get into it, as with any kind of construction on a historic building, on an old building, you're not quite sure what you're gonna encounter.
Were there any other questions from members of the committee?
Hmm.
Who's going to contact the buildings committee at this point?
I can
For
do
the-
that.
Okay.
I can
All
reach
right.
out in terms of what the CPC is looking for in terms of additional information. All right. Next application is the Elliott Park Structures Project from the Elliott Park Committee. Hey, Kat,
I,
are there questions from members of the committee?
Ken, I just had a question about the breakdown in the budget. There was, I don't know, it was $7,000. I don't have it, I didn't print it out. I think there was labor and then materials. Can you just kind of detail how it's broken out?
Oh, well, that's a really good question, Rita. I don't have it in front of me either right now, so let me find it.
Okay, yeah,
I've just
so there,
screen.
yep, so supplies were 7,200 and the contractual would be 1,800.
Well, let me answer the contractual. Let me come back to you. Oh, great, that's here. The contractual part, I wasn't exactly sure what these terms meant, but the contractual part is basically the part for the gazebo, right? So that we have somebody who is going to reseal the gazebo and also do some light sanding to remove the graffiti and stuff. So that's what that is. And then the supplies, all the supplies and equipment and stuff are for the shed. And you probably noticed that this is a lot more than I imagined it would be when I talked to you back in the winter, in the early winter, because the buildings committee got into it, and you know how they are. They are being really thorough. And just as you were saying a minute ago, Rita, you open something up and you don't know what is going to be behind it. And so they kind of came to a number that that addressed all the possibilities that they could see, because as they said, we can't be opening up buildings when we don't have the means to close them up again. So they're talking about potentially putting on a whole new roof. They're talking about possibly doing more re-siding than I thought they were talking about. Their ideas about this were pretty comprehensive. So they, I didn't have a chance to go to their meeting because it was scheduled at the same time as a Board of Health meeting. So I listened to the Zoom, and I took some notes. But I wasn't very, seems to me that I wasn't very detailed about them here. However, I can, if you want further information on this, I can go back and watch the Zoom meeting again and give you more detail about it.
No, that's okay. It was really what was for the gazebo and what was for the shed. So that was, and it looks like, so they're
so see, you can see on here that I've just divided it by A and B, and B is the gazebo and A is the shed.
Okay. And so the labor is going to be donated. for the
Yes, the buildings, the wonderful buildings committee, lovely people. I just asked them for their advice and they said, well, you need to do this, this, and this, and this, and we'll do it.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask.
Is there any way, is there any way to get from them a, even like a ballpark figure of what the value of that is? Because it would be useful information to know in terms of the matching amount.
I'm
Yeah.
sure they could provide that.
Yeah.
I will ask for that. I'll make a note.
There are other questions from members of the committee?
Is that it?
Yeah, I'm good.
I guess my one, we talked a little bit about the need for the wetland permitting, but I think in terms of an application, I'm thinking of the funding that you would, but for that type of application, I guess I don't foresee a lot of cost to it. So I'm assuming the Elliott Park Committee would just be pulling together the wetland application.
I guess so. I guess so. Tell me, I don't know too much about it, but I'm sure you guys can guide me. My recollection is that the gazebo is close enough to the wetlands and the lake shore to need this, but I'm not sure about the shed. I thought the shed was sort of outside the limit.
If it's over 100 feet,
I
then
think it
it's
is.
fine. Yeah, I've never measured. I know
Yeah.
it's down in that area, but I don't know how close it is. So
Yeah,
that would be make the application even easier for you.
right, right.
The only thing that usually costs money is when people actually have to do delineations, but in this case, you've got the lake shore, which is very obvious, and
Mhm.
I think you don't need to put aside any funds necessarily for the wetland.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So all you need more from me is to get an estimate of the value of the donated labor?
That would be useful to have, yeah.
Okay, will do.
All right, if there are no further questions, we can proceed
Okay,
to,
I will
thank
go.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, Southbrook Conservation Area Expansion. I'll just say at the outset, as an abutter to this project, I'm going to recuse myself from discussion. So if the committee has questions, go for it.
Are we gonna, well, I guess the question would be, are we gonna have enough people to vote on it? Because Rita, I think you were gonna,
Well, I'm not sure I need to. I mean, we're not voting tonight, right? So I want to get further clarification. I think we're just asking questions.
Yeah.
So the issue is that that I did, review and comment on the application that was being put together, and so I don't know if that, if that poses a conflict. It's kind of a weird sort of gray area in my mind, but I can follow up and make sure. And I think, as I said, if we're not voting this evening, I think we're perfectly fine to go ahead and ask questions.
So
yeah, and I
you're,
just want to mean moving forward, would we have, so we need 4 people. That's a majority for this
yeah,
group?
4 is a
Yeah.
quorum.
So if
Um,
Elaine comes, then there are 4.
Right.
If I
Right.
abstain,
If you
Mateo.
had to
and
abstain,
Rita.
and if I had to abstain, yeah.
But you
Um,
don't, just to be clear, you don't need to abstain if you are involved with writing the application or if you represent the board or committee that has put the application forward. That's part of
Oh.
your role on the
Oh,
committee.
okay.
This is
Okay.
something that I've checked with Stuart.
Oh, okay. All right, great. So,
Yeah,
Great.
I have to
Not
abstain
necessary
because
then.
I have a property interest
right,
as an
right.
abutter.
You
But
have a
just because you
financial.
are, yeah,
Right.
just because you
Right.
wrote the application or had a input into it that doesn't change whether or not you have a right
Okay.
to vote in it.
Okay, good.
Okay, great.
So now I'll shut up.
Well, where does that leave us?
So I don't have any questions because that's.
I don't have any questions.
Somebody gotta say something.
Actually, okay, so I did put the application together. I'm just looking at the budget at the moment. And I see that under other funds, the total is off if we add in the baseline report, which is in kind versus the others are cash. And I think that should be added in. So actually my total for other is wrong.
Mhm.
The baseline report didn't get added into the total for other funds.
So that
Mm.
should be 15,200, is that what it would be? If it's the 13,700 plus an additional 1,500?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so those are all things that Kestrel has provided, which
Okay.
is wonderful.
Yeah. So we can just correct that.
Yeah, I don't know. Mateo's not speaking, but
Yeah, right, I know.
If it's a question of like just correcting the math, then yes,
Yeah.
resubmit the application and I'll make sure it gets put up on the website. Are there other questions or discussion points from the committee about this project?
no.
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 The only thing I did mention to Beth was sort of after it got submitted that so this would be a combination where we're using community housing funds and our open space and recreation for the acquisition, and our minimum zoning in Shutesbury is 2 acres. So I think in the narrative, it mentioned 1 acre of the 9 acres being set aside for community housing, and that needs to be at least 2 acres. So that's the only sort of
I can make,
clarifying.
and maybe I can make that edit when I fix the math and just resubmit so that we have, like Mateo saying, something for the public to look at before town meeting that
Right,
is correct.
Good idea.
And we're also still waiting for a reason that the application was late was we were waiting for some letters of support, and we are also going to get one from the Recreation Committee. They meet next Tuesday, and wanted to just vote on submitting a letter, but there'll be that, and we have a letter of support from the Open Space Committee too.
Are there any other questions or comments from the committee?
No.
Lee, Bridget, Scott, thanks for coming.
yeah.
Good to have support.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I guess that then concludes this item on the agenda. Thank you all.
Right.
Yes,
Good to
thanks
see all y'all.
for coming.
Thanks for coming.
The last thing that I wanted to add on the agenda was discussion about financial stability and transparency going forward. The reason that I wanted to ask this is, or wanted to bring this up, I don't think that we need to make any decisions about this tonight, but I wanted to start the discussion about it. Last year we between the surcharge revenue, the state match, and the funds that were left over from previous projects, we ended up with a net amount of money, a little over $11,000. If we were to fund all of the grants this year, we would end up with a negative net. We're going to be spending more than we bring in this year in CPA money, by quite a bit, by about 80,000. And this has happened before. At least 3 other times in the past, we've had years where we spent more than we brought in, and it's not a huge issue. I only wanted to flag it because it seems like the the total amount of grants that we are issuing are getting bigger than in the past. And so going forward, that might present challenges for the balances that we have. And I've been thinking about this. At first, I thought maybe we should be talking about, I don't know, a moratorium for a year on grants. But then it occurred to me that that's a bad idea because who knows what projects might need to be funded. And also, legally, our committee only exists for a year. And I think there would be issues with us making a decision that effectively hamstrings a future CPC from making decisions. So hopefully, next year's CPC is all of us again. So I don't think the moratorium is the way to go, but I think that maybe one thing we should be considering is being more transparent with the balances in the CPA accounts. Maybe putting those numbers into the community preservation report or community preservation plan, excuse me, putting them on the grant application or determination of eligibility so people know how much we have. Because I also think maybe sometimes people think we have more than we do. So having some transparency about those, and maybe being a little more explicit about the match requirement. Because right now in the community preservation plan, it's listed as a criteria, but it's pretty vague. It just says leverages other money, and I wonder, and again, we don't need to make a decision about this tonight. This is something I think we can talk about, particularly when we, go about revising the application next year. But maybe setting a specific clear requirement for matching amounts, like 10% or something. Whatever the committee thinks is reasonable to try to maybe minimize a little bit the amount of CPA money so we can make it last longer, but then also get a little more buy-in. And I think that maybe applicants might be more cautious about the amount of money that they're asking for if they know they also have to find those alternative sources from other grants or whatever. So those are just some things I wanted to bring up, just because it seemed like we had a lot of big ticket items this year.
Do you know if other towns typically have a percentage match? I actually don't know what Amherst has. And then I guess that the state CPA people either recommend that or support it, or it's probably pretty common, I would think, for other towns, but I don't know.
It's not specified as a requirement in the actual statute. This is one of those things where we have some latitude, but that is a good question about what do other towns do in this regard. And I wonder if the Community Preservation Coalition has like a best practices advice for doing this. Because the flip side of it is like, we don't want to ask for people to match so much that they end up saying, we're not going to apply for this funding at all. I mean, this money is here to be used. So I want to be
especially when you don't like, I mean, like, let's just take the Emmons Spear building. So it's a town building. It's, town money going into it. So asking for a match, then you go, well, where would that match come from? Other town money.
No, but I mean, they're right. Like, as an historic property, are there grant sources that are available, or they're like the Friends of the Historical Commission, or even things that are outside of other taxpayer. I mean, I'm not thinking about like shifting those costs into other taxpayer sources, but into sources outside of the town to try to bring that outside money in.
I think it's definitely worth asking. And if somebody says we don't have the match, then why not? There were no sources. We sought out, have you sought out matching funds from any place? And so I wouldn't want to refuse to entertain an application because they couldn't come up with the matching funds. But I think, your point is very well taken, Matteo, about, have you made an effort? Have you looked around to see what, where there might be other, and I think we can also talk about in-kind contributions too. Yeah. So, for example, the matching with down at Lake Wyola at the shed and the gazebo, that's a big in-kind contribution that that they're getting.
Yeah,
They could
and that's
like,
Yeah, I think,
yeah,
yeah,
get it.
I think that's often done for town type projects.
Mhm.
That's what I came to mind was what Kat said, is that if the building committee is going to put in all these hours, there's a value to that. And you just
Oh, definitely.
calculate what it is and put that as the in-kind match on your application, definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that
that's
could very well be with the Emmett Spear building too, that the building committee will be playing, that they'll be putting time into that. So
Are
that
we
could
doing
be.
some building?
They could do demolition.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's good to capture those things, I think, just because it illustrates how the funds can be leveraged that much more effectively. So, I mean, it's what the CPC might be uh, promoting for a figure for the project. To have that other funding sources coming in, I think it makes the bottom line look much better,
Yeah.
much more effective. Yeah.
And it's a recognition too of like people have put, time into this who are they're not getting paid, but they're giving lending their professional skills to
Hmm.
the project. So,
yeah. I mean, to Cliff's point, one of the things that I do like to talk about is the amount of money that CPA projects leverage beyond CPA money.
mhm,
The
yeah.
high school track kind of messed up that calculation a little bit because that was a multi-million dollar project. So it made it sound like we suddenly leveraged millions of dollars.
Right.
Um, but I think it is important because it does indicate that there is an added value for the town in having the CPA. And then
Mhm.
I think that, also you know, the reason that I wanted to get that number, from Kat was specifically about this because I think it's easy to think about in-kind contributions and labor as like as something free that just happens, but
Yeah.
it's a cash value because
It's a cash
otherwise we
value,
wouldn't
yeah.
be paying for it. It would be coming out of the CPA money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And so I think capturing that is important.
Mhm.
Well, it also illustrates ways that you can work creatively to um, get funding for projects that isn't necessarily just through the grant, but labor and donated materials and all sorts of different ways that you can get contributions and support for projects.
Yeah.
Matteo, I
Yeah.
think your idea of of laying out how much money we have is a good one. I'll tell you, there are different approaches with CPA money, and depending upon the community you go to. Again, I worked with a lot of communities that were using CPA money for housing, and you had municipalities that every year spent their entire CPA allocation. So, and then they started anew the next year. Those tended to be the larger municipalities with the higher, like the 3% surcharge. So there we're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then they allocated the full amount every year and then started again anew the next year because they knew that they were going to have a lot of money. In our case, we have quite a bit of CPA money. We haven't, we've been spending it, but not at the rate that that we might have because we just haven't had those bigger projects. So I'm not concerned when we have a year when we spent more than we've taken in because I think that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's a good thing to have more projects. Like last year, I was so excited to have so many projects. If we didn't do the recovering the money from the closed grants, closing the Old Town Hall grant, it would have been, kind of down to the wire in terms of spending more than we brought in.
Yeah,
But the year before that, we didn't have any projects, right? So
right.
it was all surcharge revenue and state match and
Yeah.
nothing going out. So, as long as there's a balance of that, I think, then we'll be in a position where when something really large does come along, we have that pot of money in the undesignated revenue to say, yeah, we can tap into it.
And we also have the option of bonding too. So that, for a very large CPA project where we don't have all of the cash, we can bond, and then the bond payments are paid back out of the CPA. So, if it's a $2 million deal, the bond gets floated and the bond payments are $100,000 a year for 20 years, whatever. I'm just making numbers up. But that is a method to address a very large CPA allocation. And that's been done, many times. And things like where there's a big land acquisition and expensive using bonding. So it's something we haven't done, but it is available to us.
Well, also just something that flashed into my mind too, just going back to the question of, should we try to curtail, limit the number of grant applications? But we've also seen that in the last couple of years, there have been proposals put forth, but withdrawn as well. And so it's something you might start out with 6, and then it's actually only 3 that end up getting submitted for formal review consideration. And so it's something where generating interest is a good thing, but the realization that not all of them ultimately are going to end up being submitted for a vote by the committee.
Has there ever been, I know there hasn't been since I've been on the committee, but has there in the past ever been an instance where somebody applied and the committee voted to give a grant, but for a lower amount than the applicant asked for?
Don, do you remember? I don't.
I don't either.
I know. I'm not sure. Maybe that they got the grant and then they didn't spend all of it, and then we.
That's definitely happened, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the other way around.
I don't think the other case.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember any.
All right. Well, I just wanted to start having this conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think incorporating the numbers into the plan is a good idea.
Mhm.
Great. All right. Well, if there's no further discussion on that, last agenda item is unanticipated business. Is there any unanticipated business? My gosh, this was our longest committee meeting of the year.
When is our next meeting?
Our next meeting is March 26th to discuss and vote on applications.
Okay. I have tickets to the Fine Arts Center that night.
Boo.
Could we meet earlier, or I'd like to be there, or meet on the 25th instead of am I looking at this right?
I would not be able to do the 25th.
Okay.
I could do earlier on the 26th. I don't know if others.
I could do earlier also.
Beth, can you manage earlier?
Yeah, I
Yep,
can
I
manage
can do
early.
earlier.
Yeah.
So-
So we could meet at like 5 o'clock, 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Would that?
Fine with me.
Yeah.
No problem. 26 at 5 then.
Let me see what time my tickets are.
Just one question. I'm looking at the proposed calendar for 2026. It says March 19th is a date. Did it get switched to the 26th or?
I think that yes, I think it did.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was my fault because I have something on the 19th I can't get out of.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we'd meet at 5, what time? To get there at 7:30. Yes, I just need to be done a little bit before 7, but I assume that would be fine. So
March
5 o'clock on the
March 26th
26th.
at 5 o'clock.
That
And I'll
works.
update the website.
Great. Thank you all for accommodating my entertainment needs.
We have to have our priorities here.
Yes, yes.
I need to be, like fully cultured and all of that.
Yeah.
Can't all be just all about the town all the time.
Mm.
If there is no other unanticipated business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? Seeing none. Hanson,
Hi.
Farrell,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Geddes,
aye.
and Gallo, aye. That's
night,
it. Thank you. Have a
everybody.
good night.
Night.
Good night,
Night.
everybody.